picture, if you will, someone blowing into a bottle. Contrast that image with someone playing a slide whistle. I don't have a slide whistle. Wouldn't it be cool, though, if we could combine those two things? Let's say taking the timbre of the bottle and mixing it with the continuous pitch of the slide whistle. If you just said yes, boy, do I have some good news for you. Let me introduce you to my good friend, the Udderbot. Now, the story of the Udderbot is still a relatively recent one, and one that is still ongoing. So let me introduce it to you the way it was introduced to me. I had been poking through the Xenharmonic Wiki, which I have talked about in depth in a video before. Specifically, the instrument section of the website. About halfway down the page is the wind instrument section, which, if you know me, is the kind of place I'd go searching to find the next instrument I want to learn. There's a section here of the brass and woodwinds simply labeled Others. There are 3 instruments here, 2 if you don't count the dead link, and the Udderbot was one of them. The difference between this page and that of the Infinitone was a single link, which directs the interested party to a video on how to make your own Udderbot. Now, I've got a bit of an interest in making instruments, and ones that are like this, easy to DIY, catch my attention pretty easily. So I had some bottles lying around from a different project that never got off the ground, and bam, Udderbot. And then I made another one, and then I had 2 empty wine bottles I stole from my parents because I don't drink wine, and built 2 more larger Udderbots. And by now, I had kind of figured I wanted to make a video on the subject. What I didn't know, however, was basically anything about the Udderbot other than how to make one. So it was time to do some more research. Luckily, I was already on the right track, as the video instructions to make the Udderbots were published on the YouTube channel of Jacob Barton, who was listed as one of the co-creators of the Udderbot. So, let's learn a bit about the Udderbot, shall we? First things first, we need to answer the question, what is an Udderbot? Quite plainly, it's a glass bottle with a glove attached to it. You fill it with water, and then you can play it by blowing over the open end of the bottle and manipulating the glove to adjust the water inside. There's no water in this one right now. Now, there are a few different sizes to the Udderbot, both ones that have been realized and those that are just purely hypothetical as of right now. But I do believe the 2 easiest ones to get your hands on would be called the alto and tenor Udderbots. Keep in mind these sizes are not yet standardized. So, alto would typically be, I believe, the size of a beer or soda bottle, while tenor would be those that are among the size of wine bottles. Personally, I've made a few of them now, and while the process is not exactly the most simple in the world, aided by the fact that I'm not allowed to use power tools, it's far from complicated. But now, there are a few more questions I have at this point. Where did this thing come from? What's the purpose of it? Where's it going in the future? But answers to questions like that aren't going to be found on the Xenharmonic Wiki, unfortunately. So I figured if I wanted information, I'd have to go right to the source. In my first email, I asked Jacob Barton 5 questions about the Udderbot, and we'll go through the answers to 3 of them now. Number 1. What was the main inspiration behind the development of the Udderbot, and what led you to the combination of the bottomless glass bottle and rubber glove? The main inspiration driving the development of the first Udderbot was the desire to explore microtones. There were other key factors present as essential catalysts, which included 1. A history of playing in a handbell choir, 2. Difficulty in letting things go, and 3. The School for Designing a Society. It was the spring of 2005, my sophomore year at Rice University, majoring in music composition. I had been bitten by the microtonal music bug in the spring of 2003, my senior year in high school, and had been pursuing a variety of roads to the realization of acoustic microtonality sense. Retuning a reed organ to an overtone scale, writing in 12th tones in a chamber music setting for my music school peers, beginning to timidly approach the behemoth of writing xenharmonically for what I perceived as microtonally clumsy Western woodwinds. A study break was sponsored by my residential college. Root beer floats. Sticky and sweet. Gosh, are they just going to throw away all these glass root beer bottles? I see some potential here. Rushing upstairs and grabbing a red milk crate, I gathered up as many bottles as I could, rinsed them out in the bathroom sink. Having played in my church's handbell choir in middle school, I was able to reach for a similar situation with tuned bottles. The final concert of my practicum in contemporary music class premiered Clue, 2 short pieces in the very fascinating Squares 11 scale, a subset of 31-tone equal temperament, scored for 11 players playing 21 bottles. The rhythmic challenge of hocketing melody was exciting, if imperfect. The intonation suffered from the variance in players' embouchures. Also, I had to keep filling up the bottles to the correct water level in the cramped bathroom sink. The solution to evaporating water is apparently to use mineral oil, but I have not tried it. Ick. Months later, in the June of 2005, I participated in the summer school for designing a society, in which the question, what would I consider a desirable society, is given serious, playful, thoughtful discussion, and taken as input to creative projects. My design group explored their desires for society through music, creating a 40-minute nature walk performance that featured built instruments which incorporated the trees of the landscape. Throughout the month in preparation, I hoarded beer bottles that other participants were throwing away. I had extra incentive knowing that glass was not accepted for recycling in that part of West Virginia. In the course of accumulating 120 bottles, I managed to have the aha moment. What if I could obtain all the pitches I need from just one bottle? By removing the bottom and bobbing it up and down on the surface of water. The eureka moment came a day later, after taking a hammer to a beer bottle and affixing what little remained of the bottle to a length of thick PVC with yellow electrical tape. Bobbing it up and down in a bucket, or while submerged in a pond as we did in the final nature walk performance, did yield the expected glissando effect. However, there was a minor problem. The fact that the water was not enclosed meant that the pressure from the player's air pushed the water level down, only for the water to spring up, resulting in an uneasy, slow vibrato. There was no way to hold a steady pitch. The solution to this issue came in July, as I was sharing the creation with some friends from high school. Horn player Matt Gray suggested attaching a rubber glove, and upon doing that, it was off to the races. I have no idea if destiny played any role in the genesis of the Udderbot, as so many details along the way seem so random and arbitrary. Are there any attempts that you made to design instruments founded on similar principles that didn't pan out? In high school, I conceived of an idea for a chromatic panpipe, in which a single cylindrical pipe closed off at one end was intersected by a series of mechanisms that would somehow shorten the vibrating column, perhaps by rotating a disc on a spindle into the horizontal position. This idea remained just an idea. 3. How do you picture the Udderbot in the musical landscape? Are you hoping for some type of widespread adoption, or do you expect it to remain a more niche instrument mostly used for microtonal music, or even something else entirely? I think of the Udderbot as a fledgling instrument that will likely be adopted more widely in the future, as the design is able to mature from DIY, whatever, to using dedicated manufactured parts. I think of Adolphe Sax's saxophone family as a related story, and draw optimism from the fact that it took 80 years for the saxophone to find its stride. Just as the saxophone failed to be integrated into the ensembles in vogue in the 19th century, so too suffers the Udderbot. Just as saxophone quartets formed, so too do Udderbot-only ensembles deserve a try. And similarly to how the saxophones found their niche as a jazz emerged, the Udderbot may require the boost of a novel stylistic craze. It does work well enough in a rock band with a wind specialist, as David Chang has established in the band The Curses. I have played it to great effect in old-time string band jams, in microtonal three-piece band The Eslins, and in the American xylophone rag group Bones Jugs. I do envision that the Udderbot may eventually rival the recorder as a curriculum introducing elementary school classes to wind instruments. And I expect that the Udderbot will continue to feed the interest of microtonally inclined composers, although there is no reason that the 12-tone equal temperament music, as well as the practice of arranging existing music for Udderbot, would not become equally, if not more popular on the instrument. The Udderbot is also potentially a passive instrument, a listening device. As a variable Helmholtz resonator, it can be placed next to the ear to accentuate particular frequencies, so it may be useful beyond learning to play it. So it's clear to see that the Udderbot's story is just beginning. And I'm glad I can take a moment to announce that the story has developed a bit in the process of me making this video. In the process of writing and recording all this video, Jacob reached out to me and a few other Udderbot enthusiasts and invited us, firstly, to a group class that I couldn't make it to as I was out of town, and secondly, to announce to us that the Udderbot was one of the selected finalists for the 2025 Guthman Musical Instrument Competition. For those of you unfamiliar, the Guthman Competition is an annual event held in Georgia, that seeks to find and promote the work of modern instrument inventors and innovators. It's the only event of its kind, and it's kind of a big deal. So, here's to Jacob Barton and the Udderbot. Wishing you the best of luck. By this point, you may be wondering, what is left to learn about the Udderbot? Let me tell you, that's a great question. If only there was somewhere we could go to explore that would hold some of these answers. Welcome to the Udderbot Forum. I've had the opportunity to explore the community around projects before, and it's always been my favorite part of one of these spotlights. However, I've never had the chance to get in on the ground floor before. When I made my account in the forum, there were 7 other users, making me number 8. So, to be fair, there hasn't been much going on here as of yet for me to talk about. I'm just going to break down the forum's layout. There's an announcements category where the hot topic news is being discussed, like the invitation to a group class in January, or the announcement about the Udderbot being selected as a finalist in the Guthman Competition. Below that would be the questions category. This one is simple. As the tagline says, got a question? Ask away. Next up is the big one, Udderbot discussion, for talking about Udderbot-related matters. This one's got a few subcategories, to keep things organized, of course. There's the Udderbot Technique section, the Udderbot-inspired art section, the Instrument Design Lab, the Writing just for Udderbots, and the Adaptations, Renditions, and Covers section. After that is the off-topic discussion category, which is for, as you guess it, off-topic discussions. Following that is the Marketplace, which hasn't seen any use yet, but is meant to host any necessary buying, selling, or trading of Udderbot-related goods and services. Despite being, for now, rather bare bones, I'm hopeful that a community interested in this fascinating little instrument can turn that around. So, if you've been at all interested in what you've seen so far in this video, or become interested in anything I show you after this point, feel free to go stop over at the Udderbot forum and say hi. So from here, there's only about 2 pieces of information left that I really want to share with you. Luckily, they are the big ones. The making and playing of Udderbots. I'm going to discuss a bit of the process I've used to make the 8 Udderbots I've made so far. And then I've got a bit of a clip from the creator of the Udderbot, Jacob Barton, from a little lesson we did a while back on how to play the Udderbot, which in he details his process of making them today. Now, I should warn you, my method uses absolutely no power tools for several reasons. Number 1 being that power tools are expensive, and I don't really have them. Number 2 being most of the people in my personal life don't trust me around power tools. But that's been an ongoing issue for a long time now. So the first step to building an Udderbot is having all of the materials you will need. Surprisingly, this is more than simply a glove and a bottle. In my method, you'll need the following items: a glass bottle, a reusable latex glove, a glass cutter, yarn, nail polish remover or any other mostly acetone liquid, a lighter, ice water, sandpaper, usually a low grit and high grit, rubber bands, electrical tape, maybe some scissors, and more water. The steps themselves aren't too complicated, but it is a lot more time-consuming and potentially dangerous, so be sure to observe safety protocols and do your best to protect yourself. Usually I'll score a line around the bottom of the bottle, using a glass cutter. Then dip a length of yarn young enough to go around the bottle completely into the acetone. Place that yarn on the bottle around the score mark you've made previously. Light it on fire. Once it is either burned out or you get a little nervous about it, dunk the bottom of the bottle into the ice water. If done correctly, it should crack the glass, following the score mark you made. If not, it usually takes a few tries, so just repeat those steps with new yarn until it cracks enough for the bottom to either be pulled off or it just falls off naturally. Then, using the lower grit sandpaper, smooth the rough edges of the bottle where it is cracked, trying to remove any sharp edges. After that, I usually follow up with a higher grit sandpaper just for a smoother finish, but that is technically a preference thing. Then wrap 2 or 3 rubber bands around the bottle flatly, near the bottom. Insert the bottom of the bottle into the open of the glove, making sure to shimmy the glove pretty far up. Then around the part of the glove over the rubber bands, tightly wind electrical tape to create a watertight seal. Then you fill the Udderbot with water. So let's compare that to Jacob's method. What would you say your preferred method for constructing them right now is?
Preferred method is, like I really like these flip tops, so I'm starting to get bottles, like in bulk bottles that don't have wine or that like they're just empty.
Yeah.
You know, the bottles themselves that have these with them. I use a tile cutting saw, a wet saw, to cut the bottom off. Then I sand down the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Then I put a glove on, rubber band underneath, and electrical tape.
Okay.
That's kind of my gold standard right now.
Yeah, that is a lot less complicated than how I was doing it. Along with that, we discussed earlier an email I sent to Jacob Barton with 5 questions. Now's a good time to discuss question 5. What are some tips you might recommend for first-time builders? If you are cutting glass, make sure you sand the broken part until it is really smooth. Otherwise, the rubber glove will get a hole in it. In truth, I have made at least 100 Udderbots that have all broken this way, so I assume it will happen eventually. It may be tempting to use a lot of the sleeve of the rubber glove rather than shimmy the glove up as far as possible, but I have found that the more water in the glove, the harder it is to control. Unfortunately, I am not an expert at playing the Udderbot. I would actually go so far as to say I am less than mediocre at it. However, this does mean that I don't feel qualified to discuss the basics of Udderbot playing with you. If only there was someone else more suited to the task. In my lesson with Jacob Barton, him and I went over how he would normally format a lesson for a beginner, and things he would advise the burgeoning Udderbotist to work on.
Like next to that is getting a tone, and so. Yep. Right, so you want it centered on your lip, probably.
Okay.
Right, etc. So then next is right range. So how high can you get there?
Yeah, right around there.
Okay. Start right around there. That's like middle C. And see if you can go higher by starting there. The range breakthrough is where you figure out how to slowly adjust your embouchure as you go up.
Okay.
And what you do is you sort of make the hole effectively smaller. Try to get really, really, really high up on the, like, can you overflow it right now?
I could.
Like, do you have enough water that you could overflow it?
Yes.
Okay, get it like 2 or 3 inches from the top. All right, now see if you can find the embouchure for that note there. You have to jut your lip into the hole, making it smaller.
Yeah.
So here you're like, and the hole's really big. You're gonna make it a little smaller and sort of blow downward. Yep. And then it's kind of an angle thing too, like rocking down. And you can almost see in the close-up.
Yeah.
Like it kind of makes the water go angle down. But also you don't have to over jut your top lip out much. You can kind of stretch it back a bit. Let's get over to hand position.
Let's see if I can figure that out yet.
I've developed one way of doing fluid motion from the bottom all the way to the top, and it's kind of like grabbing all the fingers and leading with my thumb, which if I can, I have it on the thumb, and kind of pushing up that way so that, every possible part of the glove gets stuffed into the bottle.
Yeah.
And then what's cool about that is that once the thumb is up in the bottle, you can kind of use it as you can feel the edge of the glass and kind of feel your way around. I mean, it makes a little squeaking sound. So then, like maybe level 3 Udderbot is the full range glissando, like. But it's a matter of this, like, it's the speed of being able to. You got to start faster and then go slower.
Okay.
And that's what I'm doing, like in my hand.
Yeah.
Now I will say I've got the sloping wine bottle size, and you've got the kind of shouldered.
Yeah.
And I think they have different timbres, and I think it doesn't make much of a difference. One isn't harder to play than the other. Now I will say these Picobots are great, and you should try make one.
I'll have to. What kind of bottle is that made out of?
So, like, it's a, those kind of $1 vodka bottle type things, spirits, and then a single finger of a glove.
What would be like your number one tip for a first time Udderbot maker? Like, what's your number one thing to like look out for?
A watertight seal is attainable, and like you should insist on nothing less.
Yeah.
Okay. It's such a pain to have a leaky Udderbot.
Yeah. I can confirm.
I'll add one more thing I may not have mentioned anywhere else. Sometimes I put duct tape or some other kind of tape on the edge itself.
Yeah.
Either if I don't have time to sand the bottle down, or in addition to sanding the cut down.
What are some tips you might recommend for first-time players? It is possible to play up to at least C 3 octaves above middle C on just about any Udderbot. The trick is to use the lower lip to shrink the size of the opening. You may get out of breath. I think the Udderbot uses as much air as a flute or tuba. Now, if you're looking for some examples of the Udderbot being used in practice, look no further than the link in the description below, set to take you to an Udderbot recital, a collection of audio files from one of the world's first Udderbot recitals. I hope you enjoy. The question is then, where do we go from here? What's the next step in the Udderbot journey? Well, Jacob Barton has an answer for that too. Kinda. On his Patreon, there is a list of 31 plus directions for Udderbot design, which presents potential ways that the Udderbot can be worked on, improved upon, or led to further recognition and acceptance in the general populace. But the future is unclear. There are thousands of directions this little project could go, and innovation waits just around the corner. If you want to be a part of that yourself, I highly recommend you come join us over at the Udderbot Forum and see what your unique perspective could bring to the table. I hope to see you there. And that, folks, is all for today. A special thank you, of course, goes out to Jacob Barton for being willing to answer all of my questions and taking the time to teach me some of the Udderbot basics. This video would not have been possible without him. But I'd also love to hear the thoughts of you, the viewer. I've been working on this project since July of 2024, so I'd love to hear what you've thought about it. Is this unique little instrument going to find its way into your repertoire soon? Or just your general thoughts on it in general? Regardless, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section below. And of course, if you enjoyed it and made it this far, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot. And that's all. Thanks. I'll see you next time.